So starting again, sexuality and magic, women as the conduit of both, only able to conduct magical spell work or magical ceremony because of the power that the devil gave them through sex. Now, what happens is that the idea of the witch hunts, though the trials might start going away, the playbook is basically put into its continual changing form and brought to the Americas. Okay. And so it is the lower class and the gender of the witch that begins to be distinguished. Now, you hold on to your hats on this one, begins to be distinguished from the Renaissance magician. Does anybody know what the Renaissance magician is who practices high magic in the Renaissance era? Who is it? It's men. They're called service magicians. It's where you start to get these ideas of really, really, really early science. Well, guess where they got it from? They stole it from all the women who were the lay healers, right? Earlier on. Or somehow that information was still saved. But not all of it was saved. A lot of it was made up. Remember, now they're the service magicians were those who were practicing alchemy and all of these things where they were trying to do these magical things. And they were never persecuted. There were a couple of eyebrows raised, but because they were friends of the court and friends of the church, and because they were men, they were able to continue certain elements of magic and not be persecuted for it. Okay. It was this force, this law of attraction and magnetism. It's sometimes where we get the idea, yes, let's borrow from Star Wars, of the force, right? Or the Asian chi, this idea of energy that can be harnessed. That's what the service magician in the Renaissance era was doing. So magic, I'm reading from Federici now, was not persecuted, though alchemy was, increasingly frowned upon, and appeared to be such this idle pursuit, right? But the magicians were an elite who often serve as princes and other highly positioned people, right? And they were like those practitioners of what were called high magic. When we think of Harry Potter, we're thinking of service magicians, right? We're not thinking of, and I've got rabbit ears going, the evil old witch, right? That's a peasant. It's a woman. It's someone who is not educated, right? Not of a certain class standing. Ever notice how in all the movies where you have like poor people, even like the biggest peasants in Hollywood, when they have a British accent, that is actually Hollywood warping your mind, trying to show you that this low-life person actually has some kind of class status, even though they haven't been recognized for it yet. Because we in the West, in America, because of how we look at the British colonies as a way of class, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, but essentially this idea then of that high status of magic, like we see in Harry Potter, that's borrowed from not these origins of women that were burned and killed as witches, but this romanticized notion of the Renaissance magician practicing high magic, right? Don't even get me started. Wait till we get into next week when we start talking about the roots of Black magic. We're going to be talking a little bit about that today, a very racialized term. Can't wait to talk to you about that. So therefore, the counterparts of the typical European witch figure were not Renaissance magicians, were they? They were colonized Native Americans and enslaved Africans who in the plantations of the New World shared a destiny similar to that of the women in Europe, providing for capital the seemingly limitless supply of labor necessary for accumulation. Witch hunting and charges of devil worshiping were brought to the Americas to break the resistance of the local populations, justifying colonization and the slave trade in the eyes of the world. So then we've got all sorts of this, and we're going to start to see this as I get into our slideshow in a minute. This idea of calling whole nations of people devil, the nations of devils, and then configuring these playbooks of how to subject these indigenous peoples to labor. And when they don't play nice, they are called savages, devil worshippers, etc., etc. Why? Because they are not practicing the same religion. Why? Because women are breastfeeding in public. Why? Because women have stronger leadership positions. Why?